The communists in the media are working overtime trying to push the importance of big pharmaceutical solutions. Joining us now is Robert Scott Bell.
Thanks again, Michael. Great to be back with the Savage Nation audience. This weekend we just had the Father's Day celebrations all over, and, yet the assault on the family from what I'd call the unholy trinity of big government, big pharma, and big media, that continues unabated. It's sort of programmed fathers to lower their shields, for instance, in the presence of those coming from government, whether they be medical or otherwise. And, the message I think we need to be getting out to the dads is, hey, stand up for the family, protect the kids, protect the wife. And certainly there's so many controversies on this concept of preventive medicine. Preventive medicine, as the Obama administration passes a new executive order establishing the National Prevention, Health Promotion, and Public Health Council. Now, government has already proven to be inept in so many ways when it comes to telling us what to do to care for our health. Remember, it wasn't that long ago during the swine flu scam of 2009 that you had President Obama going on the air telling us how to sneeze into our sleeve. Like with Elmo, sneeze into the sleeve. And yet now they think they're going to actually direct us toward preventive medicine. And, of course, when we think about it, it's kind of absurd. Medicine to prevent disease. I thought medicine is used to take care of it when disease is there.
I'm sick of this.
And there's no mention, certainly, of nutrition. And this brings up another major report that just came out this past week by the USDA and HHS. They call this a report of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee on what? On the Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2010. I almost long for the days when we used to have just 4 simple food groups when there were pizza, hot dogs, potato chips, and Coca-Cola. But no, now we've got multiple food pyramids. We got eyes floating above the pyramids. Who knows what's in that nutritionally wise? We all got to be on bizarre foods. But now we've got this committee telling everybody about, for instance, the issue of essential fats. They're actually acknowledging that maybe we should be looking at healthier fats in our diet. But yet most of everything that they write in this report is all about how it impacts cholesterol levels. Oh, should we eat eggs? Oh, they're okay, but not too many. Will that fat affect cholesterol? Will it go up and down? Never acknowledging all of the science that you have even referenced here on the Savage Nation, that cholesterol isn't even the cause of heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, when you see the drugs for lowering cholesterol, they don't actually say reduces your risk of cardiac arrest. No, they only talk about reducing cholesterol because they know that reducing cholesterol does not really reduce the risk. As we've talked about here also on the Savage Nation, the fact that higher cholesterol levels are associated with longer lives, in other words. You live longer. And, in fact, lower impact of, let's say, the Alzheimer's type diseases, neurological degradation, because we know that fats are critical for neurological and brain health. They're critical for vascular health. The fats are critical for endocrine health, the hormones that keep us young. And if we continue with this nonsense that we have to be worried about fat because it's going to elevate cholesterol levels, we missed the whole point about the kind of fats that we should be eating.
Exactly.
And even their attack on saturated fats is wrong-headed because, of course, we see saturated fats from coconuts, from palm. And they're excellent, stable fats if you're going to cook with a fat. That's a great way to go. But they don't acknowledge the quality issue. Is the fat loaded with antibiotic residues, fat-soluble toxins, heavy metals? Right? We talked last week about the fact that the FDA is actually going to say, well, maybe we should look at the issue of putting mercury into the mouths of babes. That maybe that's not a great idea. And, of course, we know that these metals are fat-soluble toxins. They end up in the fat cells in the nervous system and create all kinds of medical havoc in the body for which we don't have a drug deficiency disease, including the neurological issues that are so prevalent and growing in prevalence at younger and younger ages. I mean, why do we see younger people with, for instance, multiple sclerosis, MS? Is this just because we're living longer? No, that doesn't explain why it's happening in younger and younger ages, including some teenagers. And, of course, the autoimmune diseases like the rheumatoid arthritis. I'm seeing this happening in teenagers as well. What is that? These diseases of inflammation, of degradation, used to be considered diseases of old age, but now they become diseases of the normal American Western lifestyle. And we think that this report on Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2010 is going to help. I mean, basically, they want our nutrients to come from strawberry-flavored NyQuil.
Crazy.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So we're looking, more to organic whole foods, which seemingly would be not a controversial topic. I mean, for goodness sake, how has food been grown on planet Earth since there's been a planet? We didn't synthesize, we didn't intoxicate, we didn't genetically modify. It was food that was grown, and you ate the food. And, of course, in this report, they actually say, well, organic food, no better than conventionally grown food. Well, pardon me for actually calling them to the carpet on this, but how do you add synthetic toxic chemicals, even at parts per million, because we're not talking one thing, but many thousands of things, perhaps at parts per million, and expect that it's not going to have a deleterious impact on human or animal health? I mean, explain away the fact that we don't have the enzymes to transform the synthetic toxic waste of big agribusiness as we do to deal with the synthetic waste, actually non-synthetic, but of course normal metabolic waste of food, for instance. And this is another big controversy because of the high fructose corn syrup. You know about this?
Mm-hmm.
The genetically modified corn are being converted into high fructose corn syrup. They've talked about it being contaminated with heavy metals. Now they're actually linking it with, let's say, increased levels of uric acid in the body, in the blood. And, of course, uric acid is a normal metabolic waste product, usually of animal protein consumption. And under healthy conditions, you eat healthy animals, you'll break down, you'll have some uric acid. Your liver will then convert the uric acid into the salt of the acid to the sodium urate to be brought out in the urine. But when you have the liver toxicity or the liver congestion because it's been overwhelmed by heavy metals thanks to the FDA and the dental administrations or whatever, or the synthetic pesticides that are just seemingly the government agencies, the EPAs, never met a pesticide they didn't seem to like. Yet if it's organic, they want to attack an Amish farmer, a small family farmer, for delivering organic, whole, unprocessed, raw, real milk. I mean, everything is upside down. The regulators are enabling the toxic polluters as opposed to protecting us from those who would pollute our bodies or environment, whether it be the macroecology or the microecology in our gut. And then we see such disruption in the gut ecology, and we wonder why we can't digest and assimilate nutrients. Or the ecology is so messed up, we no longer have proper immune function. The seat of the immune system being in the gut.
Sure.